Much. Welcome everyone. So thank you for joining us for this first iteration of the Art of Rest. And this was really just to give a little backdrop for anyone who has not gotten an overview of what the Art of Rest is. It's going to be a segment where we kind of are looking at the intersection between wellness and art, and more specifically looking at the intersection of rest and how it plays into our lives on a grander scale, but also how it plays into our lives as creators. And I'm kind of the camp of like, to be human is to be a creator, right? But to be an art worker who is dedicating their life to art and creating is a different thing. And so I think there's something to learn on both stages. So that's really where this came from, and I'm really excited to get started. We're gonna start somewhat at the beginning, right? Like I want to start around defining rest, and I want to make this an open space. So I'm gonna do some talking, but I really have like a lot of questions for you all, and would be very curious to hear the opinions and experiences of other people, because this hour is, yes, a little bit about sharing information, but it is mostly about reflecting on our experiences and kind of coming to conclusions together. So I hope folks are ready to interact, whether that is verbally or if you want to put things in the chat, you are also welcome to do that. And I'll make sure to check the chat every once in a while to make sure that I am seeing everything that gets put there. Additionally, this session, after, we're going to kind of discuss, and then I'll lead you through a guided meditation, and then we'll discuss our experience of the meditation. But to begin, I just want to start with defining what rest is, because I think I talk about rest a lot, and I think that people know that, you know, my definition, but everyone has a different definition. So if anyone has any responses just to that first basic question, what are your definitions, or is your definition of rest? And is it just sleep to you, or is there more to the conversation around rest for you? I'll give a few minutes to let you think about answers before answering. Why do you think people... Okay, so this is a good question to maybe get us thinking about that definition of rest, is why do you think people think they can keep going without rest? And I have an answer for that I'm about to share, but I just want to give space in case anyone else had something they wanted to share. Okay. So one, I think that my definition of rest is pretty broad. And so I'm going to share some like definition, like actual textbook definitions of rest. But for me, it's any time that we're giving ourselves a break, right? So there's a lot of resting that happens that is not sleep, in my opinion, but is resting our effort. So I think of rest as kind of not necessarily the opposite of ease, but like the other side of not ease, of effort, kind of like the other side of the coin. So there's effort on one side and there's rest on the other. And rest can look like everything, for me at least, as taking a break from doing physical work to the rest that I feel when I am my authentic self and I'm not trying to be anyone else and I'm not trying to fit into the confines of what people may think that, you know, me as a Black woman who's 30, who, you know what I mean, all the different things that encapsulate what people expect from me. I think of me being my authentic self in the face of that as a form of rest. I also consider kind of the idea of like a mental rest, which may be not worrying about things. Like when people say, I mean, it's somewhat cliche, but there's a lot of different ways that I think people say this, but like the kind of idea of let go and let God, I think that is a form of rest, right? That is a call to rest. So for me, it's a pretty broad topic. And so I think the idea of like, why do people think they can keep going without rest is a good question, because I see it as a necessity, right? And to some degree, I think that may be like a thing that we can all agree on, right? That sleep, at least, is a necessity. At some point, your body's going to give out and you're going to have to sleep. But also those types of rest also seem like a necessity to have a healthy life for me. Like without me being free and encouraged to be my authentic self, my mental health, maybe other parts of my health are not going to be the same as if I am empowered to be my authentic self. So even down to like some of the more ethereal definitions of rest, I find it to be a necessity. But we'll kind of go into what stops us from accessing that necessity. But I think that idea of people think they can keep going without ever resting is important. All right. Last call on any definitions of rest. And I understand this is a thing that we don't really talk about often, right? So I have done a lot of thinking about rest, and I may be kind of an anomaly for that at the moment. But soon we'll all be people who are thinking about rest more so than just when we get tired at night. All right. So here are a couple of the definitions, just like quick definitions that I saw online of rest that I think are, conversation starters. So the first one is kind of the one that I was expecting the most, which was to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength. And I think that last part is what people think about, right? So we kind of as a society are very focused on action, on doing things, whether that is like productive things or not, right? It's very focused on action, effort, creating the thing, making the money in more recent times, all the different things that we need for survival. And so we really think of sleep and of rest as a way to recover strength so that it's like a tool to be able to do more, right? But then there's this other part before that, and I like that this definition has it before that, of relaxing and refreshing oneself. That is really not about what you do after rest, right? It's like for the sake of that. And that's kind of the part of the definition that I want us to explore a little more, because I feel like I've seen that slightly disappearing over time, and I want us to rediscover it. Another definition was to be placed or supported so as to stay in a specific position. And this one really is not talking about, I mean, it's talking about to like rest something somewhere. So they're really referring to inanimate objects, but I just wanted to include that one because I thought the idea of being supported and allowing yourself to be supported or to be placed to kind of relinquish control is a type of rest that I think a lot of us actually struggle with, right? And it's not something that we think of as rest necessarily, but to let someone else lead or to let someone else support us is a definition of rest that I find important and relevant to the human experience. And then the last one is a noun definition of rest, which is an instance or period of relaxing or ceasing to engage in strenuous or stressful activity. And so I just enjoyed the ceasing to engage piece of that. As you might be able to tell, my one of my favorite forms of artistry are the art of words. So there's certain, little phrases in here that have really stuck for me. And ceasing to engage. There is so much going on in the world, and to take a break from engaging feels like a piece of rest that is worthy of being explored and being highlighted. I want to also point to the chat for a second for some other definitions or examples of rest from Rhonda. Thank you. So meditation and talking/praying with God, definitely. Vegging out, which I love that. I love that, like just letting yourself be and not doing anything. Mindless stuff like petting my cats while I watch TV. Yes, definitely. And that idea of touch is really, I don't know. I don't count it as rest. It's like the specific action of petting the cat, right? But in the grand scheme of like sitting and just being with your cat and having that that kind of like almost communal rest is really beautiful. And so I always say that like touch is like, I don't know, maybe like a sister or cousin of rest, because to rest with yourself is one thing, but also to rest in someone, like with someone or with an animal or even with an inanimate object like a teddy bear or something like that. It doesn't, that thing has not continued forever because of its lack of efficacy. It's really important in that rest, and it even kind of amplifies our experience of rest when we can do so in conjunction with others, which I really love. So thank you, Rhonda, for sharing those. Yes, definitely. All of those are rest. So with us kind of getting to an idea of like, okay, what are we talking about when we talk about rest, right? Like beyond just maybe even our own definition, but now that we've gotten kind of a landscape of what rest can mean, I want to talk about why I think it's important to talk about rest. And the first is 1 out of 3 adults in the United States are sleep deprived. I'll just let that thing sink in. That's how many people are on this chat right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Say it was 9 of us, 3 of us, or 2 and some fraction of us would be sleep deprived, right? It's so prevalent, and it's so socially accepted. And so that was just a little bit, I don't know, like it kind of stuck with me, or not even stuck with me, but like kind of not shocked me. It was almost shocking how unshocked I was by that fact, because I was like, wow, 1 in 3, that's a lot of people. And then I was like, also, like, yeah, I don't know how often it is. I mean, how much I hear when I ask people how they're doing. They're like busy but good, or tired but good, whatever it may be. And it's like an everyday occurrence. So part of why I'm having this conversation is because we're losing the art of rest, and that's just talking about specifically adults in the United States that are talking about sleep specifically, so a very specific type of rest. But like, when was the last time you allowed yourself to sit and daydream or veg out? There have been periods of my life where I probably went months without doing either of those things. And that's, if we were to include those in this census that this piece of information came from, I wonder if it would be an even larger amount. And kind of we ask ourselves where that comes from. And my answer to that has been like grind or hustle culture, this kind of like you have to go out and get it, and really like an evolution of like the American dream, right, from the 50s or whatever that became kind of into our view. It's almost like the most recent iteration of that, of like you've got to work hard, and there's things like people talk about like not sleeping, like team no sleep. It's like I'm always working, I'm up before you are, and that's what makes me successful. This idea that like, to be a successful person, you have to get up at 5 a.m. and have some wild routine before you ever even start your workday. So there's that. There's also the very real need to survive capitalism. We live in a world where making money is part of our survival, and not everyone has access to one job where they can do that in a way that gives space for rest, right? So maybe it is that you only have one job, but your job is very strenuous. Maybe it is that your one job does not helping you, or is not fully supporting you, and therefore you have to have things that you're doing on the side, whatever it may be. I don't want to have this conversation without the real context of what is driving people to this, which is not just a greed or a need to keep up with the Joneses. It is also a very real need to survive and to have access to the things that we need to survive, like healthcare and food and etc. But then there is this idea of like wanting money, and not just wanting money to survive or to thrive, but of like serious kind of almost incessant collection of money. That this idea that like, 100,000 is not enough, I need 1 million, 1 million's not enough, I need 3 million, whatever it may be. This idea of kind of how to make lots of money. Like, I feel like I'm just like inundated from it. With it, from like social media and just being on the internet, like, like everywhere I go, I feel like it kind of is being kind of sold to you, right? Of, oh, start drop shipping with Amazon and you can make lots and lots of money while you sleep or whatever. And there's this idea now of being able to like passive income, right? But also it takes a lot of work to get there, and it's usually a little bit not as glimmery as they tell you it's going to be. And so I want to kind of bring that context of like the overall kind of umbrella of the world back to the life of an artist in current times. And so I guess I do consider myself an artist in some cases, but I don't do art itself as a as like my soul work or my way of making a living. I do that through healing practices like yoga and meditation, and I share those, and that is what my main kind of day-to-day life is focused on. So I want to open up this question to you all after hearing some of the information that I've shared and some of the kind of opinions that I've shared of how do artists compare to the general public where rest is concerned, as some of you, and I think most of you, are artists. And maybe you can say anecdotally whether you would say the same is true within the art world, that probably one of 3 artists is sleep deprived, or maybe it's more of a thing within the art world, or more, maybe it's less. I'm curious to see like kind of anecdotally what your experience has been. So if you want to speak up, you're welcome to. If you want to put things in the chat, you're welcome to. But your own experience as well as what you have seen in the world around you. We are shy today. All right, we've got one response. Thank you, Chantel. I would guess, okay, so I'm going to read what Chantel said first, and then I'll respond to it. So I would guess it's probably higher, especially when I think of friends and what I've seen in the art world in general. Yeah, that would be my guess also. I think a lot of the friends I have who are artists do their art, but are not sustained as far as getting their basic needs met by the income that they make from their art. So most of them have like a full-time job and are also doing some type of art business on the side. Or because I teach yoga, I know a lot of yoga teachers who are also artists. So it's like they will teach yoga and they're all around town teaching yoga. And then at night they come home and they are making macrame things that they are putting online and selling pieces online in addition to the teaching yoga, because neither one. Yoga is very similar to creating art in the sense that it's typically, most people are not doing it as their full-time job, and the people who are typically, there's kind of a little bit more to the story than just, picking up a yoga mat or a paintbrush. So yeah, that would be my guess as well. Any other opinions or input? My other thoughts about how artists compare to the greater public when rest is concerned is the relationship between rest, and not talking about sleep in this instance, but like rest as in being food deprived today. That's okay, Natalie, thank you. But the need for kind of space and time to be able to create. And this was something that I I guess I never quite thought about until I was recently. I did a festival with Alpha, who I think may have left because she has a flight, but is one of the creators of Pop-Up Research Station. And we were making art installations, natural art installations. And it was interesting because I was so busy with kind of event management things. We were doing this we were displaying them during a festival, and I was one of the main organizers of the festival. And so I'm doing all these different things and thinking that like, oh yeah, I'll just be able to like do my art also. And then it was like every time I went to sit to do my art, or stand or go into the woods or whatever it was to do my art. It was like, oh, I can't just check this off like something on my checklist. That's not really how creating works. It's not the same as, okay, I need to put this up on Instagram, this thing that's already created, and I need to, send an email to the volunteers. All those things I feel like I can kind of sit and take a deep breath and just start doing. But creating something that is from the soul, is from the heart, is maybe it can just be kind of started and whimsical, but it also kind of takes a little bit of grounding and of connection with the ideas that you want to convey. And so my thinking around that is that for art and for creation in general, it takes this relationship with rest, to be able to rest, to be able to let go of all the other stuff that's going on in your life and to focus on this thing that you're creating, or to zero in on something going on in your life, right? And to be able to really explore it in a full way, and then reflect it with your art. It requires some type of rest, some type of ceasing to engage, or stepping back. And so that was one thing that I wonder if that is something that is like more prevalent in art, in the world of artwork, and art workers, that is maybe not as valued or not as seen in other mediums or in other lines of work. Cool. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to lead you through a guided meditation. And which, thank you, Rhonda, for bringing up meditation earlier, because that is one that we are going to practice today. Rhonda says, sometimes my art is my rest. That's true. I feel that. Yeah. And in that sense is still very interconnected with rest, right? With that idea of kind of releasing effort, releasing control, and letting something kind of on a spiritual level happen for you. Whether that is that you are not working in the same sense that you were formerly. So like maybe you stop the other work that you're doing so that you can do your art, and that is a rest for you, but also to be accessing a different part of your brain than a lot of the other things that we do in modern day work. Yeah. All right. So as it says on the slide, and I kind of just wrote it there just in case anyone either joins in later or in case anyone has to walk away and come back, the most important thing right now is just to find a meditation position in which your spine is neutral. And by that, I mean, I don't like to say as often a straight spine, because our spine is not naturally straight. But is in a neutral position, is kind of extended. So whether you're sitting up tall or whether you are laying down or whatever it may be for you, getting into a position where you feel like your spine is pretty neutral, it's not bending or twisting, and you are not distracted by the comfort or discomfort of the pose. So what I mean by that is if you are super tired right now, you may get distracted by the comfort of a pose, and it may pull you into sleep or make it hard for you to stay awake, and that is distracting from the meditation. Also, if you try to put yourself into lotus position right now and you're not flexible enough to be in lotus position for a few minutes, then that could create discomfort, and that will be distracting you from the meditation. So those are two kind of opposite extremes, but to find a position where you're not distracted by the position, but you're able to be held by it. For me today, that's just going to be sitting up on my chair, but I do have some cushions on it so that I can do so comfortably. Then I want you to just relax your shoulders, relax your face, allow your eyes to close if you are in a place that feels comfortable for your eyes to close. If you are not, you can also look down towards the floor and just kind of soften your gaze. And then bring your attention to your breath for a moment. Notice your breath coming in and out of your body. Not aiming to change anything just yet. Just noticing your natural rhythm. Wonderful. Notice where your breath goes in your body as you breathe in. You feel it in your neck, in your shoulders, in your chest, in your belly, in your back. Wherever you felt your breath coming into, I want you to see if you can start to deepen the breath. So pulling it down deeply into your belly if it wasn't there before, or if it was there already, pulling it a little bit lower into the navel, feeling the lungs expand down, and then feeling the body hug back in towards itself on the exhale. Ideally, you want to be breathing through your nose as much as possible. But if you are experiencing any blockages there, or any health issues that make it so that that's not possible, I invite you to do what you need to do for your own body. I actually bring that invitation even more so to the forefront, to listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to your own awareness of yourself. If there's anything that happens during practice, or if at any point you need to take a break, or whatever it may be for you, adjust positions or anything like that, feel free to do that on your own accord. This is really a practice for you, so take that in and accept ownership of the practice. I am simply a guide, a suggester. Wherever you are, I want you to take a big, deep breath in through your nose. And exhale, release it. Feel your shoulders relax. Your face relax. Relax the eyes, the eyebrow line, the forehead. And then start to observe yourself in this restful position. I want you to get comfortable in that space of being both the one who is witnessing and the one who is being witnessed. Notice if that feels comfortable or uncomfortable for you. See if there's any way that you can create more comfort there for yourself. This idea of seeing the self without judgment, without any should be's or could be's. How comfortable can you get with just noticing what is without any judgment or even without even any analysis or without any characterizing of good and bad. From this place of rest, I want you to start to reflect on some of your earliest memories of rest. Because rest is not something that we necessarily highlight, it may be hard to think of some earlier instances of rest. But remembering that open-ended definition of rest for us, maybe it was a nap time when you were in kindergarten. Maybe it was watching Saturday morning cartoons with your family, your siblings. Maybe it was the freedom of creating as a child. As these memories come to you, see if you can jump into that smaller, younger you. Notice how you felt about rest. Are there any emotions that come up about rest? Was it joyful for you? Wonderful. I want you to notice the other folks around you. If you are coming to a memory of childhood, maybe what are the adults that were around you at that time in your life? What are their relationships with rest from your point of view? Did you ever see your parents sleep, or was that something they only did once you were already put to sleep, and something they finished doing before you were woken up? What did adults say about rest? Coming into your teenage and adult years, what did you learn about rest? Were some of those attitudes that I discussed earlier introduced to you at some time during your teens or early adulthood? Of needing to focus on work more so than rest. The ideas of our worth being tied to how much we do, how productive we are. Do you remember a time where you finally noticed that you were being more of a human doing than a human being? Or maybe that time is now. And allowing space for you to go deeper into those memories, or to even make space for you to find those memories. Notice if the emotions and the thought patterns, the mindsets around rest shift at all for you in those teens or early adult years. And then I want you to consider how your relationship with rest in all its forms kind of has changed or evolved over the time in between those years that we just discussed and where you are now. Have you had time to reflect on some of those beliefs, mind states, emotions? Have things changed, or do you still agree with some of them, or is there nuance? What value do you currently put on rest? Is it something that is valuable to you? Or is it something that you find yourself sacrificing in the name of something else? Whether that is being productive, whether that is your job, whatever it is that you're using to make money, whether it is something else entirely like socializing or something else. Allow yourself to reflect without any judgment, without any shame, whether the reflections are feeling good, neutral, or not so good. Know that you are okay, you are safe, and that in this moment, this reflection empowers you to keep what you want to keep and change what you want to change. Allow that open awareness of your current relationship with rest. Be your main focus right now. If your mind has wandered, taking a deep breath to bring you back to the practice as well as to the present moment. Noticing maybe even how your body has responded to your thoughts about rest. Has it stayed calm? Has it kind of deepened into the stillness, enjoying the thoughts of different times that you have rested, or your thoughts and feelings about rest? Or have there been times where you can feel that your body has tensed up a little bit, thinking about some of the beliefs that you hold or have held around your need or your experience of rest? Remembering this practice is to be aware of ourselves. So whatever your truth is, whatever is authentic for you, is correct. Taking a step back from all of your reflections, slowly closing out whatever thought that you're having. And we'll all take a cleansing breath together. In through the nose, big deep inhale. Hold for a half a second, and then exhale through the mouth. Allowing the body to hug back in towards itself, and for the air to release. We'll do one more cleansing breath together. In through the nose. Slight pause, out through the mouth. Beautiful. And just allow yourself to sit for a few more moments in this open awareness of the present moment. Starting to picture the room around you, the seat supporting you. Starting to notice the sounds around you, the sensations of the air on your skin or the clothing on your skin, the touch of the chair or cushion that you may be in or on. Even notice the taste in your mouth at the moment, the feeling of your lips. Start to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Take a deep breath in. Maybe sit up if you are leaning back or if you are laying down. And when you're ready, start to slowly blink open your eyes. Wonderful. So I'll give you a few moments to kind of recover or wake up or whatever you need to do. But I have some of the questions that I asked during that meditation up on the screen. And it looks like we have about 5 minutes until the hour is over, until 3 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern time anyway. Okay, bye Rhonda. Thank you for being here. But I'm curious just to have any either reflections of the experience itself or if there were any like kind of answers that came up for you that were either surprising or just, you know, things that you want to investigate more, whatever it may be. But yeah, and so I've put those questions up on the screen for you so that you can kind of reflect on them in case they have exited your mind during the end of the meditation. And again, you're welcome to put this in the chat or to unmute yourself and share verbally. We are shy today, y'all. That's okay. I'm going to just share a little bit of my experience as I did this before. I did this with myself before doing it with you all. And that was really just that I had never thought about like how I learned to rest. I mean, you don't really learn to rest, right? Like it's a little bit of nature before nurture. But even like to put value on things that I deem as rest was something that was very much taught to me subconsciously. And I always think about how children are such sponges and they kind of just absorb whatever is around them. And so just wondering the ways that I saw the adults around me either taking time for rest or not taking time for rest, and how that has influenced my own experience of rest. Because I definitely went through a period of time where I felt a lot of shame around resting. I never felt like I was doing enough, never felt like the work was done, right? And that was partially because I was working in, pretty stressful, a stressful field where I was working to help alleviate issues that have been going on for hundreds of years and may continue to go on for hundreds of years. I'm only probably able to alleviate them at best. And so that idea of like the work is never done really permeated my life. And yeah, rest was just like a really difficult thing to access for me, even when I was laying down to go to sleep or when I was taking a break to watch a movie. There would always kind of be this like background noise of, oh, but did you do this? Oh, but you need to do this. Oh, you're taking this time to rest or to enjoy yourself, but there's actually work to be done. And, what is so-and-so going to think about you taking time off, and all these different narratives. And so that idea of like kind of who taught you how to rest, it's like everyone, right? It's like everyone around you taught you how to rest, or how to not rest, or how to value rest, or how to not value rest. And that was something that I not only became aware of for myself, but also how does my behavior reflect my my thoughts on rest, or the way that I value rest, to the next generation. I don't have my own children, but to the children that are around me, or to the young people who are around me, am I setting an example of someone who can see the value in both effort and ease, or effort and rest? Or am I pushing a narrative that I don't fully agree with? So that was kind of the narrative that happened for me as I experienced that same meditation that I just led for you. All right. Well, Lisa, it is 3 o'clock, so I will hand it back over to you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun, and I'm excited to kind of build on this for next session. So I'm here every third Tuesday, and I want to make sure I have the next date correct. The next time that I will be leading discussion again on rest is going to be September 19th. All right, and I'll stop sharing my screen as well.
Do you want to share where we can find you?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. So my business is called Liminal Grace. It is kind of the umbrella under which I teach yoga, mindfulness, and have discussions like this about rest and intentionality. And so I will put it in the chat as well for those joining us on Zoom. But my Instagram is Liminal. That's LIMINAL .grace, GRACE on Instagram. And then my website is actually under construction right now. So I will lead you to my link tree that has it's kind of my middle ground right now until the website is all the way up again, which is it's like a link tree link, and it's just /liminal grace. So I'll put those both in the chat as well.